Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. We have a work session this morning. It's Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. It is 9:05 a.m. Virtual public attendance is available on the Thurston County YouTube channel. Our topic this morning is the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan Implementation Update. And we have in the boardroom, Commissioner Klaus, Commissioner Fournier, I got a lot of names now I gotta go through. Interim County Manager, Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager, Rob Gelder. We have our Climate Program Manager, Rebecca Harvey, who will be presenting. And then Commissioner Mejia is excused and Commissioner Edwards is on Zoom. So
And Commissioner
full
Mejia
hybrid.
will join us as soon as she is able.
Very good. So do we need any intro or do we go right to Ms. Harvey?
I think that we'll just turn this right over to Rebecca.
Share my. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Rebecca Harvey, Climate Mitigation Senior Program Manager in the Board of County Commissioners Office. Welcome, new commissioners. I look forward to working together. So I've been here just over a year, a few weeks ago. Went by fast. And so today's briefing is a report on the progress of my program over the first year. I'm the first person to hold this position with the county. And also, after an overview of 2023 accomplishments, I will provide a preview of one of the priority regional initiatives for 2024, which is a residential energy efficiency and electrification campaign. I will also present an opportunity to accelerate this initiative by participating in a tri-county pilot outreach and education campaign. So before we get into that,
Use this.
oh yeah, okay, I'm used to clicking. I will start with a review of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan for all of us, especially the new commissioners who may not have been in as many discussions about this as I have. Thurston County joined with the cities of Olympia, Tumwater, and Lacey to develop the Thurston County Climate Mitigation Plan to reduce locally generated greenhouse gas emissions to mitigate the impacts of climate change. The TCMP involved robust community engagement and was accepted by the 4 jurisdictions in 2021. The plan sets the targets of reducing countywide greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2030 and 85% by 2050 relative to a 2015 baseline. So I want to be clear in the terminology because it can sometimes be confusing the way these words are used. Climate mitigation is what the plan focuses on, which refers to reducing heat trapping greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. Climate adaptation, on the other hand, refers to managing the risks associated with a changing climate and adapting to the worsening impacts of climate change. The county is taking action on the adaptation side as well. Things like flood protection, infrastructure upgrades. But today's discussion and my position in general focus on climate mitigation, which is the mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions. So we have sustainable transportation, clean energy, and energy efficiency, and these are the topics that my program generally deals with. The county has conducted an annual greenhouse gas inventory since 2010 and selected 2015 as the baseline year for tracking reductions. The data that you see here show that after several years of increasing emissions, 2020 and 2021 emissions have come down below the baseline 2015 level. Which is good news because our population is increasing, so we are able to bring our emissions down even as the county's population is increasing. And these reductions are attributable to a cleaner electric grid on the part of PSC as they work to comply with the State Clean Energy Transformation Act. As well as on the transportation side, we're seeing fewer vehicle miles traveled since 2020, which is very likely a result of the pandemic and more telework. However, importantly, as you see, emissions are still not on track to meet the 2030, and 2050 targets, which is shown in the blue line. The inventory is used to develop strategies and actions in the climate mitigation plan, which are divided into these 5 sectors: buildings and energy, transportation and land use, agriculture, forests and prairies, water and waste, and cross-cutting actions. The greatest contributors to regional emissions are the buildings and energy sector, which accounts for about 54% of total emissions, and transportation, which is approximately 36%. So I'd like to move on now to share some key accomplishments from the past year, and I will pause at the end of this section for questions and discussion before I go on. My talk is basically divided into 2 pieces, which I estimated are about 15 minutes each, and we'll have plenty of time for discussion. The first accomplishment that I would like to share and celebrate with you all is that the 4 jurisdictions approved a new interlocal agreement and a regional implementation guidance, which defines the Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative, or we have our new acronym TCMC, as the umbrella term for the partnership, and clarifies the roles and responsibilities of each of the 4 groups that comprise the TCMC, which are shown here in the diagram. We have the jurisdictions, which are mainly responsible for implementing actions in the plan. We have the staff team, which is myself and my counterparts in the 3 cities. We meet regularly, weekly, and work together on our regional initiatives, which I will talk to you more about in the second part of my talk. We have the executive committee, which Commissioner Menser has been on, which is meeting quarterly now and champions the ongoing implementation of our plan. And then we have the community advisory work group. So this new interlocal has recognized the increased staff capacity that all 4 jurisdictions now have to implement the plan. And it also has increased opportunities for the community advisory work group to provide feedback. And we are just convening a newly appointed work group starting next week. Thank you. Okay. So an important difference between this interlocal agreement and the previous one is that we had TRPC, Thurston Regional Planning Council, as a party in the past, and they are no longer a party to the interlocal. So under the new ILA, we have 2 new contracts. One is between the City of Lacey and the Institute for Sustainable Communities to conduct the administrative support services. They will be facilitating the committees and the work groups, providing an annual report, and hosting a web platform for the collaboration. And secondly, we have a new contract between Thurston County and a nonprofit called ICLEI, who conducts greenhouse gas emissions inventory services for us in the coming year. So as the TCMC has been reorganizing at the regional level, we have also made progress here internally in the county by establishing a climate mitigation program. And this includes myself spearheading initiatives from the county commissioner's office. It also includes coordinating across many departments in the county to bring the projects and programs in the different departments under this umbrella of the TCMC. So this website, the climate change response section of our county website, is like a hub to bring all of this together under an umbrella program. I'm going to turn now to some specific strategies and actions that we've made progress on this year. First, in the buildings and energy sector, Thurston County achieved SolSmart Silver designation in September. SolSmart is a national technical assistance and designation program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy that recognizes communities for taking steps to reduce the soft costs of solar energy and make it easier, faster, and cheaper for our residents and businesses to go solar. So this is an enabling action. It's going to help us make progress in other areas of renewable energy. I would like to note that Thurston County is one of only 91 counties in the country to receive this designation. There are 450 or so total communities. Most of them are cities, so not. So it is quite an honor. And we created a solar landing page that you see here to pull information together on solar programs as part of this. Another action we have taken to advance solar energy is participating in the Department of Commerce Technical Assistance Program called Solar Plus Storage for Resilient Communities. And we are working with one of Commerce's selected vendors to complete a no-cost feasibility assessment of 5 county facilities that are listed here on the slide. And this is to identify buildings. Am I doing something wrong?
No, you were not. No,
Oh.
but you're doing
People keep coming
advancing the
into
slides,
the
but we have
meeting.
people coming in.
Oh, I see what that, this is the only one. Okay. Okay. So actually, I just received the completed feasibility assessment in my inbox yesterday afternoon. So we now have assessments of these 5 facilities for the capacity to support solar energy installations, as well as whether or not they are appropriate for battery storage based on the use of the buildings from a resilience perspective. A couple of them might be, others might not, because for example, Tilley Road Public Works campus is very large and has very large energy load, and providing a battery to support that energy load would be more expensive than a grant would be able to support, or that the county would be able to support at this time. But the fairgrounds is identified as likely a better candidate for a battery storage backup. The fairgrounds is intended to be used as a shelter at some point in the future, so if it needed to be operating when the power is down, that could be a resilient use of battery storage. However, we did just receive these. I haven't reviewed them in depth yet. You will hear more about them at a later date. So this is just a very recent accomplishment. The point of the study.
They're completed.
The study is completed as of yesterday. Yes, so I'll be sharing it with colleagues in Central Services and Public Works, and we'll be reviewing the information. Then we have all the information we need if the county decides to apply for a grant through this same state program to develop any of these solar projects. So that's an option we have, and we have the information we need from the study. And we can come back to any of these once I get through them for questions. Okay, so in the transportation sector, we have made progress on strategy T3 by adopting a new county policy to provide publicly available electric vehicle charging stations. We did have a briefing on this policy on September 25th and discussed it at length at agenda setting meetings on October 31st and November 7th. So we're not going to go into this one, but I will go to the next step, which is,
I guess I have it here, I can.
sure. Do you have a clarifying question?
No, I just want to read the last 2 sentences.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got it, it's okay.
So moving on, now that we have the policy, we can apply for the grant monies that are coming down for public stations as well as fleet stations, county vehicle stations. So I've submitted now 3 and almost 4. The 4th one is due this Friday, and it's almost done. Grant applications, and these are listed here. The first one is for a commerce grant that we applied for back in May, and they have not announced awards yet. The last I heard from them is 1st of December, so hopefully next week. And this is for the Tenino project in partnership with the Thurston Economic Development Council to install fast chargers and level 2 chargers at the Southwest Washington Agricultural Business and Innovation Park.
We should know next week.
That's what they told me, but before that they said early November, so
Yeah.
we're hoping for next week. Also this month, I submitted 2 grants to the Department of Ecology, one for the Public Health and Social Services building on Lily Road, which would provide 10 level 2 charging ports for county vehicles as well, Specifically, it's 7 for county vehicles, 1 for employees, and 2 for the public. And then another ecology grant for this building to provide some public-facing chargers. And then this week, I'm submitting one more to Department of Commerce, both for the atrium lot across the street on Pattison, where we park our fleet vehicles, to electrify pretty much most, 20 of those spots, because that's the maximum the grant will fund, 20 out of 26 of those spots for our county vehicles. We're also adding a few spots for county vehicles at the Waste and Recovery Center into this grant as well. So stay tuned on these. Yes.
A quick question on the atrium and the public. Would that be incorporated into the existing visitor parking spaces, or is that
That's
looking at other
absolutely, that's a
capacity?
discussion we are going to need to have if, and hopefully when we are awarded the grant. But
One
we've
emphasis.
started to talk about it.
Parking spot 4.
Yeah.
That's
We know that
fleet
parking is tight in this
or
building.
county vehicles, right? That one on the side that's.
Yes, that's for, yes.
One on the side of the building for the county vehicle, and the reason that it is where it is was that's where there was access to electricity source.
So there's an actual charging spot there? I
Okay.
just see it says EV.
There's a spot, but I don't know that the charger
It's not
is there yet.
installed
It's
yet.
not
Yeah.
installed
Yeah.
yet.
Facilities is working on it.
The thing with the visitor parking is, again, what's the electric source that we can use? And so that's the reason that the Pattison lot is attractive, is it's got a energy source there now that we had to have installed to manage the electric gate, and we can just tap into that. So what
There wouldn't have to be the excavation and trenching across a parking lot.
exactly.
as there would
So, and this, since this is a leased building, we also need to work with the landlord to ascertain what they will allow. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
And the landlord has expressed their support. They wrote an email which we attached to the grant application. So we're just putting the applications in now. I'm also looking at, PSE has an incentive program, so we can braid some of these incentives, because there will be a match, given some of the costs. The grant has a cap of $7,500 per charging port for the commerce grant, a little more for the ecology grant, but we'll try to get some of those costs covered by PSE too. Okay, let me get through just a couple more here, and then we can pause and go back to any that you have questions of. Okay, so everything I've shared so far are initiatives that I'm very deeply involved in from my own position, but I wanted to make it really clear that there are a number of initiatives cross-departmentally that are ongoing and in various county departments. So you see here across the sectors of the plan. In the agriculture, forests, and prairies sector, CPED has been having some fantastic accomplishments with the Healthy Forest Project, with the Habitat Conservation Program. These initiatives are explicitly mentioned as actions in the TCMP. So we're working, together and meeting multiple goals through this umbrella program. Public Works is very key in implementing the TCMP as well in the transportation and land use section. The trail connectivity program, some of the roundabout projects are meeting the goals of transportation efficiency and bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure that are integrated into the TCMP. And then the water and waste divisions in Public Works are, the Waste Division has just staffed up their outreach capacity in the last year, so they're really gearing up to do more outreach on composting, on recycling with businesses as well as with residents, again, helping to meet the goals of our plan. And in the wastewater system too, they're doing some energy audits to see how they can save energy in the treatment of wastewater. Central Services is doing ongoing LED lighting upgrades and looking at other ways to increase efficiency of county-owned facilities and buildings. And then Public Health and Social Services, I'm just starting to engage with them more, quite honestly, and I'd like to do so more as we move into working on some residential programs. But they have ongoing programs that meet some of the cross-cutting goals of the plan as well. Okay, so just real briefly, things that are not yet accomplished but are well underway this year. I wanted to mention 3 more projects. One is the comprehensive plan. Climate element, this is going to be a huge lift in the coming year and a half. I have been, this is now required by state law. As you know, the Board of County Commissioners did authorize our comprehensive plan update to include a climate change element before it was required, but then HB 1181, House Bill 1181 passed and now requires many jurisdictions to include a climate element, which is both climate resilience and greenhouse gas reduction sub-elements. And I've been working closely with community planning staff. We submitted an application to the state climate planning grant for the state climate planning grant, which is up to $800,000 total. And what we asked for was $300,000 to support the development of this climate element by its due date in June 2025. And then they allow the rest of that grant allocation. It's a formula, not a competitive grant. They allow the rest of it to be reserved for implementation planning, not on the ground capital implementation of construction projects or anything like that, but planning activities that are policies in the plan to develop further, we could do an electric vehicle infrastructure assessment, or we could do a more thorough climate risk and vulnerability assessment, or things that would happen in the planning department, like with our land use and development plans and codes, so forth. So we're reserving the rest of the funds to do that implementation work, and I will continue to work closely with CPED staff on this in the coming year. Another project that you've heard about recently, so I'll just very briefly mention, is that we are continuing to move forward with a potential solar energy development on the county's closed landfill at the Waste and Recovery Center. We had a briefing about this on November 9th. Since then, we've received many favorable public comments. I keep getting them in my inbox every few days. So I know the community is very excited about this. It's a way to repurpose vacant land that can't be developed for another purpose, to put some solar panels on it that could provide up to 3 megawatts of energy into PSE's electric grid. So stay tuned on that as it moves forward. And then one final initiative, last but not least, is I want to mention that CPACER, which was an ordinance passed by the county in 2022 after the state law was passed the previous year, or in 2020. It's a commercial property assessed clean energy and resiliency financing program. Has been slow to take off across the state. It's just there's a learning curve. Commercial building owners are, I think, have a lot on their plates these days, and we have not yet had an applicant. We've launched the program and just starting to ramp up the outreach a bit more to get it out there, and doing some tabling and doing some fact sheets and some social media outreach about it. So I'm sure we'll have an applicant in the, well, I'm not sure, but I'm hopeful that we'll have an applicant in the next
We had
year or
one at
so.
one point.
We had interest at the very beginning, and then I don't know what happened. It just waned. Yeah, and that's been the same in other counties as well. They might have had 1 or 2, but there isn't a lot of movement with it yet. All right, I'm gonna pause there before I go into 2024. And what time is it?
You're good, it's 9:30.
Okay, that was my
So
plan. So
questions on those,
have
commissioners?
questions or discussion on anything.
How do you get this data?
How do you get
Yeah.
this data? A lot of emails and requests. So it's not data, a greenhouse gas inventory is not measuring the actual greenhouse gases that are in the air.
Yeah.
It's an inventory of the resources that are used throughout the county. So we reach out to the agencies that hold those data. So a lot of it comes from Puget Sound Energy, all of the electricity purchased residentially, commercially, industrial, natural gas from them as well. Then we reach out to Department of Transportation for the vehicle miles traveled data. They have estimates. The county also has traffic counts that we're gonna look at this time around to see if that can augment it, because there's always, there's different data sources, and we try to augment or update it every year with the best practices.
Are you
We're
describing the
actually-
inventory process?
Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's not that Rebecca's sitting there gathering all this.
Yeah,
It's-
she's not out collecting
We
the
haven't-
air and testing it with a microscope.
We have an inventory
Yes.
process and now that's actually shifting from from
Yes.
whoever was doing it to this new organization, but she's describing what they do.
And I haven't done it myself in, like, led the process yet, because TRPC, Thurston Regional Planning Council, was doing it previously. So this is the first time that I will be sending those requests, so that's why I don't know exactly who they all are yet. Some of it is also from Google. They have Environmental Insights Explorer, where they provide a lot of data on vehicle miles traveled throughout the county's roads and such. So we're actually having ICLEI, the nonprofit that's contracting to do this work this year, look at our past, since the baseline, our past inventories since 2015, and make sure they're all up to date with the best data practices.
Also, you're gonna be collecting stuff to feed to ICLEI, and then they understand the methodology, how it puts together into something like what you're seeing there, an actual total number, and then I guess they're gonna standardize it back to where, so that we can look at it and actually compare year to year.
Yes.
It's not
That's right.
all different because one group did it one way and the next group's doing it a
Exactly.
different way. That wouldn't be very helpful.
Yeah, well, no, that's like the first thing when I see that change from, to 2020, I was like, was there, like, that doesn't seem.
That was
That's
COVID.
that's
That was-
shocking. I know
Yeah.
it's COVID. Is it?
It
Like,
was
so
COVID.
like,
It was just-
or was
Yeah,
it a
that's
change
mostly
in
from
data
transportation.
collection, or was it a?
No, that was pure, I
Uh,
was there when we were tracking all that. That's pure COVID, like when
yeah.
the streets were empty, and vehicle miles traveled went way down. And I mean, we can say it was, our plan's working, but it was really COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
It was,
I mean-
but it's also the Clean Energy Transformation Act and the emissions, they call them emissions factors, which are a ratio of how much carbon dioxide is put into the air from the electric grid. And as the electric grid is using more renewables into it, those emission factors are getting cleaner. And so the way, the resulting emissions calculations, bring it down. So that's part of it as well. And when we do the inventory for 2022, which we'll do this coming spring, you're always a little bit after the fact because you have to, get all that year's data. We'll see, hopefully this trend will continue to go down from our baseline.
Can you pull up the other commissioners so I can see?
Just hit the expansion there, yep. Nope, next one over, that one. There you go. Gary's the iPhone.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards or Mejia, you guys just pipe in.
I don't think at this point, but I'm gonna have some questions before we conclude.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, at this point, anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Anything?
Not yet.
Okay.
I have a few more.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had mentioned in previously that joint collaborative group included TRPC and they kind of led the charge, and that's no longer the case. Why are they no longer part of the, I guess, puzzle?
Yeah, TRPC brought the jurisdictions together back in 2018 and was leading the community outreach and working on the early stages of implementation. Then we staffed up each of the jurisdictions after I was hired last fall, and then, well, Tumwater and Olympia had added their staff previously, and then Lacey just did this spring. So their explanation was they didn't feel as needed anymore now that we have the full-time staff.
Yeah.
And they wanted to step back or step up to kind of a higher level. They'll still be involved. They manage data. They have a data platform on their page, which has all kinds of demographic and land use data on it. So it has a climate data section. So they'll continue to do that. They just won't be on the ground with us, you know, facilitating our committee and work group meetings and doing the annual report.
And just to be clear, it was their internal decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said we're.
Yeah, it's just TRPC is the joiner of everyone, and,
Yeah,
you know, when
no,
you
I was-
exclude them, it excludes Yelm, Rainier, Bucota, Tenino.
They weren't excluded, that's what I'm
No,
saying, like, they
yeah,
decided
yeah.
that it wasn't the right
They chose to
role for
pull
them.
out.
Yeah,
was
no, I'm
saying- I
not
was-
saying,
I was
we
as
did.
surprised as you were.
yeah, it doesn't seem,
Surprised.
it seems like
We were all
Just-
surprised.
completely, you know, counterintuitive to their mission.
I agree.
I said the same.
And then, what is CAW? Can you,
Oh, that's the Community Advisory Work Group.
what is that? What does that look like?
It is a group of 15 community members that are meeting monthly, starting next week. Previously, it had been less often, their meetings. We restructured to give them more of a voice. They are diverse community members who submitted applications through a process we had this fall.
And it's an administrative process internal to it's not appointed, it's not,
Correct. It was appointed by the staff team.
okay.
They were appointed by the executive council, but that's in this new restructure, we took that away from the.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and do you still have is it more wide open? Cause it used to be like someone from
This-
representing the agricultural industry, someone
Right.
I mean, it used to be.
Yeah, we
very
took away those designated seats I wasn't here that first time around, but what I understood from my colleagues was that was confining and didn't go
hard.
too well. And there were also agency seats that had been reserved for someone from Puget Sound Energy, Intercity Transit, and the Conservation District. And we eliminated those, so it's all community voices. We will still engage with the partner agencies as needed on relevant
And
initiatives,
that's
but
just
they're
an
not on the
advisory
community.
group to your staff.
To our staff and to the executive.
And then my question was, how do we promote EVs at our own facilities? And you kind of answered that, I read the policy, and then, my other and I think it was in there, the car charger grant to the ag park, it would be, the subrecipient would be the EDC, not the city.
EDC, right.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, the city provided a letter, thank
Yeah.
you for that, and is a partner, but the EDC will be managing. The county will be managing the grant, the EDC will be managing the project
Okay,
if we're awarded.
cool, thank you.
I had a question on the solar stuff, so you were talking about battery storage, is that if you're trying to completely make the building run on solar and only solar, or is that, cause there's also,
Not necessarily,
cause,
generators or.
well,
is that-
I know there's situations where if the building can handle solar panels, you put them there and then it supplements, it's not like you get rid of all the other systems, you just create as much solar energy as you can, and then, so I was confused by you were saying
Okay,
like,
yeah.
well, we can't do
Yeah,
Tilly because it's not, there's too
Yeah,
much power load, but
I'm sorry, I didn't
doesn't mean you
explain
couldn't
that too
put
well.
panels there potentially, right?
Absolutely. So what the feasibility studies will tell us is which buildings are, first of all, suitable for solar panels themselves. And most of them probably are. And so Tilly and the I always forget the acronyms, the Emergency Services Center, which is the one on Pacific Ave, are very suitable for solar panels on the roofs. And so that would be something we could look at and apply for, not this particular grant opportunity, but another one
Okay.
to install solar panels. This particular grant opportunity is for solar and battery storage. So if those other facilities like possibly public health and possibly the fairgrounds are more suitable for battery storage because of their use of energy, then we could pursue that grant. So, and even, the battery storage is not about making the building fully run on solar. how much the building can run day to day on solar is determined by how much roof space or land space there is, and how much energy the buildings use. These buildings are generally very large energy users, so we probably, maybe the fairgrounds, I'm not sure, but the rest of them, I don't think we'd be able to put enough solar on the roof to cover all of the use of energy. It would just offset a certain percentage of it.
Okay, and then what's the battery doing?
But then the battery is for resilience. So if there's a power outage, without a battery, your solar panels are connected to the electric grid and they go out when the electricity goes out, because it's not safe to be running power into the electric grid when the utility is trying to fix the grid and there's workers up there, they could get electrocuted. So if you have your battery storage system, then you can continue to run your building or a part of the building's load. And that's what these calculations are gonna tell us. Can it run 10% of the building's load for 3 days, or for, are we looking at like a short-term power outage, or are we looking to power the building for a Cascadia Rising type of event? So we had some discussions like that with staff. And in some cases, they can supplement the existing generator as well. So you'd be able to run the building longer because of
So this is just an added value to what the situation is today. Because today you could have a power outage. And you'd have to figure out what you're gonna do.
It's an added value. I would describe it that way.
Many
And-
of our buildings have generators though,
Yeah.
so there's power outage and the
Yeah.
generator kicks in.
But the solar can add that for it, and there's a grant opportunity to pay for it, so it might be a good value.
Now, if there were no grants, what about this thing that we were hearing about where the law changed and you can basically, companies are allowed to, for public entities, lease you the equipment or whatever until you've paid off basically it's no upfront cost, and then you're just like leasing to own kind of a thing, and that wasn't allowed, and then they went to the legislature last year and got it changed, so now it's allowed. And
A power purchase agreement, or?
It's-
that Joel Hansen?
yeah, it's something where it's like you can get the solar panels put on, and then it's like you pay them off over time, and then you own them
The
later.
company still owns the private.
They own them
So-
at the front end, and then
I thought
you-
that had been, I'm still fairly new to Washington, but I thought that had been allowed
We've been
here.
looking at those types of things for a while
Yeah.
now, I don't know. I was not aware of a legislative change,
Yeah.
but you may recall that there were at least 2 times when we did reviews, joint reviews. We had vendors who were interested in working with us to install solar panels. And when they looked at our buildings, the only one that they were interested in was Tilly. We tried to get them to go for Mottman, and they weren't interested in Mottman, they were only interested in Tilly. And then to go forward with that, we had to do such significant infrastructure to be able to support that, and they expected us to pay for all of that, that it made the whole program not feasible. So with Rebecca looking for grants, it may become much more feasible, and I'll be very interested if they decide that there are other county buildings that are feasible.
There was a bill, because I submitted
I-
testimony in favor of it, written testimony,
Yeah,
and
I'm
it
just
passed.
foggy on
So
what
Don't
that is.
recall it.
1477, I wanna say.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look back at that. What
basi-
did change
yeah.
also at the federal level, this is what I thought you were referring to, is that government entities and tax exempt organizations are now eligible for direct pay tax rebates. So owning the panels outright is actually a better financial deal than any of the other options now, because we're eligible, just like a homeowner is, for 30% tax credit. It's called a direct pay option, since tax exempt organizations aren't paying taxes. So the landscape has changed for owning solar panels. I do want to move on though, because I want to get through the 2024 stuff and have a little bit
Okay,
of
I
time.
think we
to-
covered everybody, so let's go on to your next piece.
Okay, great. Okay, so I mentioned earlier in the restructuring piece that the new guidance for the TCMC defines an annual process to identify priority strategies that would benefit from regional coordination. And at this last retreat that we had in June, the TCMC, after considering a number of potential initiatives and having some discussion about them, we selected 3 regional initiatives that are listed here. The first 2 both address residential energy use, including a program component and a policy component. The program component is a residential energy efficiency and electrification campaign, and the policy component is a home energy score model ordinance. In addition, the executive committee agreed to work on advocacy related to rural tree canopy targets and for state forest lands management. I'm just telling you all this to put it in context, but today I want to focus in on the first one, the program component for residential energy efficiency and electrification. You will hear more about these other initiatives as we begin to develop them in 2024. So why was this selected as a priority regional initiative? First of all, residential energy use is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the region, accounting for about 32% of the countywide total emissions. This has been recognized by community stakeholders for several years. Not only is addressing residential energy use a high impact way to cut greenhouse gas emissions, it also has an equity benefit by reducing home energy costs, particularly for low to moderate income households and those with high energy cost burdens. Second, retrofitting existing buildings is an essential strategy to reduce emissions. While new buildings are built to more efficient standards in the new building codes, most homes in Thurston County are older, and more than 2/3 of the housing units that will exist in 2050 already exist today. So we need to address energy use in the existing building stock and do so early and aggressively if we are going to meet those 2030 and 2050 targets. Third, energy efficiency and electrification are both essential strategies to reduce home energy use. Energy efficiency is generally the most cost-effective solution, but efficiency alone won't get us to those targets. We do need to implement multiple measures simultaneously, including conversion of fossil fuel natural gas appliances to electricity. In addition, this builds on prior work that has been done here in the region. Thurston Economic Development Council and Thurston Climate Action Team ran an energy program for a few years that we're learning from their lessons. Puget Sound Energy has their own rebates that they're putting out now. So we're integrating and building on existing programs. City of Olympia has been doing a heat pump rebate program. We're integrating that, and kind of this new program will be a kind of next phase of what they've done in Olympia alone. And then importantly, we're able to, if we start this initiative now, we will be able to leverage these federal funding streams that are coming. The Inflation Reduction Act, incentives and rebates that are coming out at the federal level, as well as being distributed by the state. The state says mid-2024 is when they're going to start distributing those rebates to homes to make it easier for homes to implement efficiency and electrification, as well as the block grants that are available, and I'll tell you more about those in a second. So I have here a preview of what we are envisioning for this campaign. It will consist of 4 components. Let me get my slides here so I can see these. So these include a website, first of all, or a web-based information hub, an advisory support service, local incentives, so we can use some of those grant funds to augment what's the incentives that are already there at the federal level, with local incentives to further reduce the financial barriers to action, and then drawing this all together with an outreach and marketing campaign to raise awareness and get people to the website and to the information. A high-level timeline here is the staff team committed to developing this campaign during 2024. So I just want to be clear, it's not developed yet. That's why this is a preview of kind of where we're going with the vision. So our next step is to present a project plan to the executive committee in January. From there, we will be writing our grant applications to the federal Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. That's due now in April, hoping to get it in a little sooner than that. And by we, I mean Thurston County as well as Olympia and Lacey, which also qualify for those block grants, so we can pool those funds together. And then we'll proceed with designing the plan throughout the first 3 quarters of 2024 and aim to launch it in early, by January 2025. Okay, I want to pull back to the state level real quick because this dovetails with what we're doing locally. Not to make things too complicated, but they kind of are complicated. There's a lot going on in this residential energy space. So House Bill 1391, which did not pass in the 2023 legislative session, it passed the House but not the Senate, is being amended and reintroduced in 2024. And the Commerce Department is actually kicking off stakeholder engagement on this new statewide energy navigator today. This afternoon, I'm attending a meeting on this. And they've defined the purpose here of this statewide building energy navigator program, which is to provide a statewide resource to assist building owners and renters with accessing electrification services and energy efficiency services, funding, et cetera. So it's very similar to what we're envisioning with the TCMC. But importantly, if the bill passes, we're not sure, of course, if the bill is going to pass, but if it does, the department will not be under contract until January 2025. So there will still be time that they will be building out that program. So it will not launch until after those state incentives through the Inflation Reduction Act are available. We want to jumpstart that and move faster because those incentives are coming in mid-2024. We want to be ready for them. So I have an opportunity that I want to share with you all that we can accelerate implementation both at the local level and at the statewide level. This opportunity is to join in a tri-county partnership with King and Pierce counties and the county seats in all 3 of the counties, Olympia, Tacoma, and Seattle, to launch a pilot Switches On campaign. The Switches On is an existing web campaign to promote home electrification that has been serving in California since 2019. So the benefits of grouping together, joining together, and doing this regional pilot, first of all, this would accomplish that first goal of our selected regional initiative that I showed you. This would provide the web-based information hub. So it will provide a foundational website that can raise awareness, provide education, and also connect users based on their zip code to what incentives are available for their home upgrades and what contractors have actually been vetted. Part of this is pulling together a vetted list of contractors. And it would launch early. It's moving quickly. It could launch as early as January. And so it'll start to raise this awareness and make sure we don't miss the boat on letting our households take advantage of these cost-saving rebates that are coming for them. It will save cost, deliver a higher quality platform than each of us would be able to afford on our own, and it would provide a turnkey, regionally consistent approach to outreach and education so we each don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's actually envisioned to serve as a pilot for that statewide Washington Energy Navigator. And the partners here at these jurisdictions are engaging at the state level already to kind of let them know, Commerce can decide what they want to do and put out their competitive bid for their navigator, but this is a kind of a test run and filling the gap while the state is taking more time to develop their program. Did you have a question, Commissioner? And then finally, it is a flexible platform. So like I said, it can create this foundation. And then as we bring in our own EECBG grant funding here in the county to build out some local aspects of an outreach program and incentive program. We can integrate that into this platform. So as you can tell, I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's a real way to save cost and do something together regionally that's going to happen a lot quicker than if we here in our TCMC spent several months trying to develop something. All right, so a preview of what I can't see the time there, but we're very
5
close to
minutes.
the end. So I want to wrap up here, but it's an existing website, switcheson.org, and that is active in California, and they would be creating a new brand for that for a Washington statewide website. I'm just giving you a preview of this today and want to request, and this is what it looks like, I want to request direction to bring back a services agreement as an AIS to the board. And the services agreement would be between Thurston County and King County, who has agreed to contract the services to deliver this platform, this website, and outreach campaign. It's more than just a website, it's also events and a campaign throughout the Tri-County region. And let's get to the numbers here. So the SwitchEson has given the partner jurisdictions a proposal that the pilot year would be $225,000 total, and Thurston County's proposed contribution is $25,000 towards that, which is just what we're kind of seeing as the baseline. Some cities or counties might put in more if they want more paid media or more events in their locale, but $25,000 is the lowest amount to contribute. And so that's what I'm proposing, that we contribute that towards this real cost-saving effort to jumpstart our campaign and everything that we've been envisioning doing. Now, I want to tell you all more about it when I bring the AIS, just want to see if we have direction to hear more about this at a future meeting.
So let me say for new commissioners, so we did dedicate implementation money 2.5 years ago or so, of which there's still remaining money set aside. I don't know, I can't remember what the number is, but it was originally like $337,000 and maybe half of that's left or a third of that's left, something
More
like
than
that. But there's still, that would be, I'm imagining where you're proposing that money would come from, just for that.
Yes, there's a Thurston Climate Mitigation Fund that was approved, well, is it done yet? Is it, I'm gonna say it's
It'll
approved?
be,
It'll
yeah.
be, okay, it was budget request B 2302 was to roll over that fund that has 220,000.
Do you need a motion from us to be able to access that money?
I don't believe so, no,
Okay.
I need a motion
It's appropriated.
Okay.
to sign the service agreement.
Right.
We can direct her to bring that agreement forward and we'll vote on it at a
You
later
can
time.
give her guidance today to bring this forward.
Questions
That's
about
what we're
this?
looking for.
I want to hear more about the energy efficiency block grants and like what those look like, how those would be like implemented and rolled out, what they are. You know, like we've done a great job with the community development block grants and
Yeah.
making money accessible all throughout the county. And
Right.
I'm excited to hear more
This,
about that.
I remember we had a little email exchange about that, and it, I clarified that the county's allocation can be distributed to more than just unincorporated. It could be for residents in the smaller towns as well.
Yeah.
But it's not a whole lot of money, and it's only a one-time, it's $81,000. And it's, so it doesn't really compare to the CDBG, and it's only a one-time thing. So I'd be happy to talk more about that at another briefing, because we're running out of time.
Out of time on this, is everybody comfortable with having that service agreement come forward?
Yeah,
Thumbs
definitely.
ups?
Sir?
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
No problem with that.
Okay.
How and when will we know if this investment has been successful?
This investment that we're,
Yeah,
with the switches on,
Yeah, I mean, are we gonna have some kind of
a matrix or something that shows that we've had certain
Yeah,
amount of participation or
Absolutely.
lower issues? What's?
I asked for a metric, I asked that exact question to the Switches On for their California campaigns, and they provided that to me. I printed it, I could share this with you, or I could follow up in an email. But they, they have website hits and all the digital metrics, engagement, of course, and then events. So they would be planning, I had to rush through this, but they would be planning like a kickoff event with community leaders. And they have chefluencer events where they bring in chefs to demonstrate induction stoves. So event attendees and engagement that way. And then they also do a pre and post survey of awareness and belief. So we would have all that. That's part of the contract.
Just because I saved a couple of questions to the end. And are you taking into consideration when you talk about that battery storage area or whatever, out at the landfill, thinking about solar and such? Are we taking into future considerations of like the security around these sites? If it's feasible to have those sites at those locations? And again, thinking into the future for this. And what about the possibility of hydrogen at the same sites if we're gonna look at alternative energy sources or nuclear? They have small nuclear plants that are the size of a semi-truck or something, trailer. So are we considering all of those issues as we move forward?
To be honest, we're not considering nuclear in depth at the moment. We can,
And why
we
is
can
that?
track the technologies and keep,
I mean, Europe is using a
hydrogen
lot of
for
those
its-
small nuclear,
true, yeah. I'm just saying, we're not like,
so,
looking at it locally right now, but and
I mean, I'd
and
like
my
to
colleagues
leave
are
everything on
keeping
the
track
table.
of what's happening on the international scale. But hydrogen, you may know that several Washington cities were selected as a national hydrogen hub. So there's going to be hydrogen development happening, Centralia, I think it was. Am I right about that? So regionally, we will see that development, and it's, it's exciting. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
I would hate to see this body just say, oh, no, don't talk about nuclear, we don't wanna talk about that. Because the reality is, it's real.
Yeah.
And it's probably a necessity
Yeah.
if we're gonna keep from having brownouts. Using California as the model isn't my most favorite thing because they have brownouts all the time down there because they haven't managed things very well. So I just wanna make sure that we take everything into consideration as we move ahead, that's all.
Okay, we're out of time. I'm not gonna lose the opportunity to say that the whole concept of having this regional initiative was something I fought for. You were there, right, for that? And
Yeah.
it wasn't on the table and
Yep.
I basically got everyone to agree to do this. So hopefully this really yields to some fruit because there are things we need to work on together as a region rather than just having each jurisdiction doing their own thing in their own lane. So that was kind of quite a battle at a couple of retreats ago. Anyway, yeah.
I have just one last thing. I won't ask for an answer because we don't have time, but do you think you could email me some info about ICLEI and why they were chosen as a partner for the nonprofit? That would be awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I would ask on any communication with the board members, I think we all ought to get that. So we all have some understanding for, if a discussion comes up, we've all got the same information that you're, it's just as easy to send to all of us as it is to one of us, I think.
Yeah, I'll follow up on a couple other things like the metrics and the EECBG with more information as well. I'll watch the video and see if there was anything else too.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank
Okay,
Thank you
we're
all.
adjourned.